If mabengena mabengena la uzoza yini?
Are we ready? Except that I can't see Mr. Van Deventer because there are cameras.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's HP Prinsloo from Northwest Cricket. Mr. Van Deventer is our legal representative.
Oh,
and he's sitting next to me.
Okay. I'm just trying to arrange the situation here. There are cameras that are, for the first time, I think, since we sat here, the cameras are put where they obscure a great deal of my view of you. I would like you to be able to see me, but I would also like to see you fully, your full picture. That's something better, except that now you must unmute yourself. Okay.
I am unmuted, sir.
Oh, yes, yeah, okay, all right. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for this 15-minute delay. You know, one wants to plow through all these annexures and detailed affidavits that you have obliged us by sending them through. Now, as I understand it, we are going to be hearing responses by the Northwest Cricket Union, which is a cricket union in Northwest represented by VDD INC attorneys. Is that right so far?
So the sound on my side is a little bit of a problem in trying to fix it. I didn't hear all the sentences that you just said.
Maybe I must unmask myself, which I've done.
Yes.
Not that it makes any difference, really. I was saying that we are going to hear representatives from the Northwest Cricket Union.
That's correct.
Who are represented by, in the records that I have, by attorneys who go under the name and title of VDD Incorporated. Am I right so far?
Yes, it's Van Deventer Dlamini Incorporated.
Yes, Van Deventer Dlamini Incorporated attorneys. Now, and you are, what are your full names? What are your full names? Can you?
I'm the CEO of Northwest Cricket.
Okay. Can you place yourself on record by telling me what your full names are? And whilst we are going to be doing that, I would like you to tell me whether you have got any objection to taking the oath. Some people prefer to affirm, but some people want to take the oath.
I have no problem undertaking the oath. My full names are Hermanus Gerardus Prinsloo.
Okay. Mr. Hermanus Gerardus Prinsloo, do you swear that the evidence you are going to give to me is the whole truth? Is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth? And if that is so, please raise your right hand for the camera and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you. As I say, my sense is that you and whoever else in your team is going to be testifying will be responding to allegations which were made to me here by Dr. Opa Nkachiseng, Mr. Festus Motsabi, Mr. Papi Mbese, and Mr. Mpo Siloa. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes. And I believe that you have prepared certain and, talking points in response to that. In fact, I have something approaching 104 pages of response. And I don't know whether you are the only one who's going to be speaking to the allegations that were made against the union, as well as to individuals in the union. I'm quite happy, but I'm not expecting you to read in this session almost, what amounts to nearly 100 and how many pages? 171, 72 paragraphs of affidavit. I know that you wanted to make sure that you left no stone unturned. And there are annexures starting with NWC 1, which is an annexure of a letter under the surname and signature of one Eugene Pretorius, and so on and so on. But I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page as to what we have and what we do not have. Your statement, if you could confirm with me, has a number of annexures which run to something like 103 or 104 pages. Am I right? And I think that last annexure, which takes us to page 104 from page 96, is NWC 15. And NWC would be Northwest Cricket Annexure 15. Have I identified all the pages and documents to which both you and somebody else from your team, or only you, will be speaking to this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes, there's actually a supplementary submission we made on I think it's the 9th of September, that is quoted as is marked as NWC 16 as well.
Okay, we have it, we'll print it out, because we're writing it separately.
It looks like, because it was sent separately, we will print it. My assistant here, Advocate Dumisa, is going to make sure that we have it as well. I do not know whether you then are suggesting that you need to start testifying with me having that annexure as well in front of me, or whether in the meantime, whilst I have that annexure printed by Advocate Nele, you can go on what we already have. I'm flexible, but I would like to do or to listen to you, knowing that you are comfortable with what I have as you proceed to highlight those areas you want me to pay particular attention to.
Mr. Chair, yes, I'm comfortable if we proceed so long until your assistants can provide me with that NWC 16 supplementary submission. I'm just wondering, is it necessary for my legal representative to be put on record, to take the oath or something like that?
Yes, if he's going to intervene at some stage and explain certain things, since this is a project of a record, anyone, including my learned friend there, if he is going to be speaking to some of the documents or some of the events, then he needs to take the oath or to
Will we do it as we go along, if necessary? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, yeah. No, at some point when he feels that he needs to explain or to expatiate on a part in your testimony that he feels he can best express to me, then when he takes the stand, he will need to be sworn in.
Okay, 100%, Mr. Chair. I'm ready to start so long if it's
you have
fine
the
with
chair. You have the chair, Mr. Principal.
Thank you. Just for the record, my name is Hermanus Gerardus Prinsloo, and I was duly authorized by the administrator to make this submission to the SJN Hearings, and the authorization is marked with annexed NWC 1. I'd like to continue on to page 3 of my affidavit. The first 2 pages is more or less just introductories. Just have to give context in terms to what is important according to us, to explain the context of our submission. We start at page 3.6. It's pointed out that both Dr. Mpagisang and Mr. Mbesi have not been part of Northwest Cricket for at least the past 3 years. As Cricket South Africa requested Dr. Mpagisang to step down on the 5th of December 2018, and Mr. Mbesi left Northwest Cricket under a cloud of misconduct allegations levelled against him. The SJN Hearings therefore ought to take note of this context in order to properly assess the tone and contents of the accusations and submissions made by Dr. Mpagisang and Mr. Mbesi in relation to Northwest Cricket and myself.
Yes.
The background and the structure of this response, I'd like to explain the following. I was duly appointed as CEO of Northwest Cricket on the 1st of November 2018. Many of the alleged occurrences referred to predates my appointment, and I am therefore reliant upon the reports made to me by the individuals involved and Northwest Cricket records at my disposal in preparation of this document. In addition, I have consulted as wide as I could in the real time afforded to us with members of the administration and management currently still employed by Northwest Cricket, as well as my predecessors where possible and subject to their availability under the time pressures imposed on Northwest Cricket. When I refer to legal issues in this representation or make legal submissions, I rely upon the legal advice of our legal reps in preparation of the submission, which legal advice I accept to be correct. Northwest Cricket reaffirms its commitment to transformation and transparent, fair and objective management and administration of the union in the best interests of cricket and all the registered and or affiliated stakeholders seeking to make a constructive contribution to these hearings with the factual submissions made herein. Page 5, paragraph 13. Save for the annexures referred to, we hold the considerate view that the majority of the misplaced accusations and submissions proffered by Dr. Ntsebeza in his testimony are in fact not supported or confirmed personally by the individuals referred therein. They remain untested and uncorroborated accusations, and careful consideration should be exercised as to the weight and credence that can be attached to it. Mr. Wachabi and Mr. Ntsebeza also made some oral submissions and accusations. Those submissions are largely a repetition, if not identical to those accusations made by Ntsebeza. He's pointed out that their mere uncorroborated and untested accusations do not stand as the truth of what they allege, and it does not discharge the required burden of proof, nor does it accord with the principles of natural justice as stated to be applicable in the rules of the SJN hearings. Due to the adverse nature of the allegations, North West Cricket is effectively forced to respond to submissions that would otherwise in civil proceedings be deemed to be vague, embarrassing and ambiguous to warrant any formal response in the circumstances. Now, response is divided into 4 major sections, namely the first one, a statement on the events immediately leading up to my appointment as a CEO and what happened before my appointment. Second one is the financial aspects of my tenure as a CEO. A structured reply to the submissions by Dr. Ntsebeza, Mr. Wachabi, and Mr. Ntsebeza, insofar as it is possible to respond thereto. And fourthly, the closing submissions for consideration by the SJN Ombudsman. Events prior to 1 November 2018, which is the date that I was appointed, at least 4 forensic, financial and other reports were commissioned into the affairs of North West Cricket for the period 2016 to 2018. It's a Gericke accountants and the House attorney's reports, which I referred to, of which 2 were immediately preceding my appointment as CEO on 1 November, and the latest 2 by Cricket South Africa on or about February 2019, the Deloitte's report, and September 2020, the Bowman's report. Obviously, these reports are all available from Cricket South Africa as well as ourselves. I do not regard it necessary to elaborate on the entire contents of these reports, save for what is highlighted herein below, and then only to the extent that, to that which is deemed relevant and necessary. The entire process and latest reports were driven by CSA. Dr. Ntsebeza was the president of North West Cricket from the 1st of August 2016 until the 5th of December 2018, when Cricket South Africa stepped in and requested Dr. Ntsebeza and the board to step aside after an audit was done to the allegations of maladministration and financial irregularities committed during the Semes Park Stadium upgrade, which was done during 2017. The resolution by Cricket South Africa is annexed hereto and marked NWC2. My appointment and tenure as CEO of North West Cricket. Adverse submissions are made about my appointment and ability as CEO of North West Cricket, mainly by Dr. Ntsebeza and also by Mr. Ntsebeza. I do not include herein a detailed reply to the process of my appointment on the criteria and the decisions to appoint me from the shortlisted candidates. Instead, I regard it proper for additional submissions to be filed on behalf of North West Cricket, as set out in the affidavit of Mr. Jan Weideman, the Vice President of North West Cricket at the time, which is annexed hereto and marked North West Cricket 3. It was made clear to me at the time that I was appointed because of my cricketing background and experience, both as a player and as administrator, but more specifically that I am expected to apply my financial qualifications, skills and experience in combination with the above to guide North West Cricket into calmer financial waters again. It is a matter of fact that North West Cricket's finances were in disarray at 1 November 2018, and that it was in dire need of strict turnaround strategy and a strong hand and control to ensure the implementation thereof. Within the first 2 weeks of my appointment, the first formal financial demand was made to North West Cricket, threatening deal action. This served as a reminder that there really was no time to waste. I managed to negotiate payment plans in respect of electricity usage and hotel accommodation, which was some of the accounts that was in arrears. At the time, North West Cricket was in the middle of the season, that is the cricket season, and not much could be done to stop the flow of expenses. I immediately implemented measures of control, including that all expenses needed to be curtailed and signed off by me under the supervision of the administrator. On the 5th of December, Cricket South Africa required the board to step aside and placed North West Cricket under administration, and an independent administrator was appointed. The proceedings that eventually resulted in the above actions by Cricket South Africa emanated prior to my appointment and completely independent from my involvement as the newly appointed CEO of North West. The administrator and I, one of our first priorities was to review the governance protocols of North West Cricket, with specific focus on the financial systems of North West Cricket and the financial practices. The implementation of these financial systems and practices at North West Cricket could no longer be avoided. During or about mid-2019, a restructuring process was undertaken, the primary objective being to cut down and minimize expenses. This was achieved, for instance, by combining 2 or more staff functions into one. The restructuring was a success, and the results speak for itself, as more fully set out below. As will become evident herein under, the allegations made in the SJN Hearings do not refer to these objective considerations and quantifiable results. Instead, these measures are referenced out of context, and it is alleged that North West Cricket and myself demonstrate a lack of commitment to transformation. Basically, my suitability as CEO was questioned. I find it necessary to summarize the audited financial statements for the financial years of 2018, 2019, and 2020 below as a snapshot into the financial affairs of North West Cricket. Just to clarify it for you, Chair, is that the financial year end is not usually the same as Cricket South Africa at the 30th of April of each of these years. So the loss for the 2018 financial year was 8.7 million rand. The loss for 2019 was 6.6 million rand. If you add these two figures together, this amounts to a cumulative loss of 15.3 million rand over the 2 years. During the financial year of 30 April 2020, a profit of 1.3 million rand reflected in the audited financial statements. This must be seen against the background facts that before the 2018 financial year, North West Cricket finances were sound, and it even had reserve funds at its disposal. This cumulative loss of 15.3 million completely wiped out the reserve funds mentioned above. In terms of the transformation at North West Cricket, which we were heavily criticized for in the submissions made at your hearings, at the time of my appointment as a CEO of North West Cricket on the 1st of November 2018, our transformation numbers among staff, coaches and ground staff, collectively employees of North West Cricket, reflected as 71.07%, comprising of African and Black African individuals. On the 30th of April 2021, the numbers reflected that 84.09% of North West Cricket employees comprised of African and Black African individuals. These numbers are derived and supported by our VIP payroll system. This, I submit, illustrates a concerted effort and commitment to transformation by North West Cricket and indeed of myself as a CEO for that matter. Mr. President? Yes.
Just on that particular paragraph on transformation, I'm not sure if you have Dr. Kagiseng's submission before you.
Sorry, repeat that. It was you broke up there.
No problem. Do you have Dr. Opang Kagiseng's affidavit or submission before you?
Yes, I think what he referred to will become apparent, and I will address it later on in my affidavit, which I have a table of content in terms of the criticism that he had. I'd like to clarify that later on. So maybe if you will be patient with me, I think it will be clarified later on in my submission, ma'am.
Okay, because I'm not sure if you will be clarifying what he was talking about the all-white. In his submission, he said it was an all-white office, and he listed, if I may, while we're still on this particular topic on transformation, or would you like to, would you like me to pose the question when you deal with it later again?
Yes, I think I'll deal with it later in my presentation. I'll readdress that question for you.
Thanks, HP.
Okay. I think until now the last mention I'd like to make is that currently of the 16 contractual players that we do have at North East Cricket, 9 of the 16 are either African or Black African players, just for the record purposes. I think this is important information I just shared with you and give more context to what is to follow in our presentation. Structured reply to submissions by Dr. Kagisang, where I refer to the adverse comments and accusations made and where reference is made to page numbers. These are the page numbers on the transcriptions of the evidence by Dr. Kagisang, Mr. Ochabe and Mbesi respectively, as is received from the SJN hearings. At pages 2396 to 2402 thereof, say for instances specifically addressed herein under, the contents of these paragraphs are noted, and insofar as it records Dr. Kagisang's recollection of his involvement in cricket in general. At page 2407 and page 2801, there was alleged influence by parents in terms of team selection of youth teams. It is denied that parents were allowed to or indeed influence the selection of provincial youth teams or positions within the team. Not only are potential sponsorships sourced only after selection of the provincial teams, but it is also subjected to a process designed to govern the selection of all representative teams and to ensure the integrity thereof, including the following: a selection panel for each team being appointed by the schools committee. Schools are to submit names of potential or notable players for selection. Players are to be selected at trials, taking into consideration performances on various other platforms, including their statistics during the school season. Prior to selection being confirmed, the preliminary team is presented to the youth cricket manager, the CEO, and the president for approval. During this time, all Cricket South Africa protocols in terms of transformation numbers was adhered to. The established practice of these sponsorships, which was criticized, ensures the inclusion of children of all backgrounds who might be unable to attend and ultimately equip themselves in terms of clothing and equipment for these opportunities, and who would otherwise be precluded from developing their potential. These sponsorship contributes to the opportunities and development of schoolboy players in North East Cricket. The funds are applied equally for expenses such as clothing and meal allowances amongst the players during these tournaments, and all players were indeed treated equally on all levels. Having regard to the above, it is acknowledged and acceptable practice, particularly in the South African context, to create opportunities for all players of colour and to expose them to the more professional platforms and facilities through sourcing. It funds the development of players at schoolboy level. The confirmatory affidavit by Mr. Heinrich Stadem, the former CEO of North East Cricket, confirming these facts, is annexed here to and marked North East Cricket 4. At page 2409, signing off on team selection, the submission to Dr. Kagisang noted, but it is of no moment. Cricket South African transformation requirements were achieved and monitored. Selection panels in all youth and senior provincial teams presented their selections to the CEO and the president of North East Cricket for final approval and signing off of the teams. The President maintained the process of the team selection and signing off on it. This is further dealt with herein later. At page 2410, Mr. Faisal Minty. As an upcoming administrator, I've served many years on the board of North West Cricket with Mr. Minty, for whom I had tremendous respect. It is unknown to me why he was never elected as president of North West Cricket, and as there was no impediment for him to become the president of the normal selection or election process. Dr. Nakashisang became the president in 2016 after standing for the position and after the election process was followed. At page 2411 and 2791, Mr. Mbesi alleged disparity of North West Cricket remuneration of ad hoc coaches and umpires. This happened a long time ago, and these submissions herein are vague and non-specific. With regards to the allegations of inequality of remuneration of the coaches, I deem it important to firstly distinguish between coaches employed by North West Cricket and ad hoc coaches. In other words, coaches not employed by North West Cricket. The ad hoc coaches attend tournament weeks and receive an equal honorarium. Please note that this is not a salary, but just an honorarium. It is highly unlikely that ad hoc coaches would have received anything in the vicinity of 50,000 rand per tournament, as alleged. I confirm that the current going rate in 2021 will be in the vicinity of 2,500 rand per coach for the attendance at the National Week. All the coaches employed by North West Cricket are remunerated in accordance with the activity-based funding model from CSA. These remunerations are similar in respect of everybody, and there is no differentiation at all. The allegations, therefore, are unfounded and denied. Records are available on the request, which will confirm and corroborate these submissions.
Mr. Prinsloo, what was the rate before 2021?
It's just the reason for the 2021 is just to show you that it is highly unlikely that whenever these allegations were made, I believe it was for the two Mr. Kookaboers that we're addressing here, is that there will never have been a 15,000 rand remuneration on the table back in those days, as the going rate all the years has never been, and even now is in a proximity of 2,500 rand for the coach. Mm-hmm. So I think in all likelihood, it's unlikely that 15,000 rand would have been doing the rounds back then.
Okay, is the union able to maybe later provide us with maybe proof of these allegations contained in this paragraph?
Sorry,
because
ma'am, you're breaking up. I don't know if...
Mr. Prinsloo, can you hear me now?
Sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better now, yes.
Okay. So I'm saying that these paragraphs where we're discussing the remuneration of the coaches and umpires, we don't have any reference to annexures as proof of what is contained in these paragraphs. So I'm requesting that the union provides us maybe proof of these allegations.
Well, at the time when for the time period that these allegations was made, it was a long time ago, so we cannot prove that. But for the near past, let me say the last youth tournaments that took place was 2 years ago. I can pull those records for you and show them that the remuneration or the honorarium for those tournaments was in the region of 2,500 rand per coach. And when we get to the umpires one, obviously we can provide those evidence for you as well. So can I confirm that you request that we do so?
Yes, please do so. Thank you.
We will do. Okay. At the bottom of page 13, for your convenience, at page 2845, Mr. Mbesi gave testimony that umpires are not remunerated equally. Again, the allegations are too vague and non-specific. However, I can confirm that the records of North West Cricket reflect equal payment to all umpires, irrespective of cover. These records will be made available to the SJN hearing for verification if required, as we've just discussed. There is no factual truth in these allegations, and in fact, no justification for such allegations made at court. I'd like to, I believe I saw that the chair got the supplementary affidavit of the 9th of September, and I'd like to refer to that at NWC 16 as well, just for the record. At page 2413, availability of the CEO and employment agreements. It is difficult to understand what this complaint is about and why it is raised. Insofar as the employment agreement of the CEOs are concerned, it is my understanding that it is regarded as a confidential matter between the President and the CEO of North West Cricket. And it would have been made available to the board if requested. However, upon a request by a member of the board, the President, the CEO would be obliged to provide the details thereof for whatever purpose it was required. All other employment agreements, such as players and coaches agreements, are regarded as operational of nature and therefore generally not to be discussed on board level other than in executive summary format. But it was always available on request for any specific purpose. These agreements were transparent and not secret at all. This complaint raised is of no moment. At page 2416 to 2420, election of Dr. Nkafisang / pre-election meeting. The allegations by Dr. Nkafisang with reference to any alleged impropriety are denied, and his personal perception are indeed misplaced and out of context. I did not act in any bad faith, nor did I push any agenda on the night of Dr. Nkafisang's election as President of West Cricket. At the time, that is during 2016, I was the chairperson of Potchefstroom Cricket Club, commonly known as Potchefstroom Cricket Club, which supported Mr. Weideman's nomination as President of North West Cricket. Myself and Mr. Weideman has known each other since 1987. I addressed Mr. Nkafisang in my capacity as club chairperson as to inquire from him what his vision was and whether all the clubs understood his aspirations as president on his nomination and the obligations as the president should he be elected. These are typical questions that may be addressed to any candidate, whether it is a white or a black person nominated for president, and his answers and responses may persuade club members to support both of them. The exchange took place in a public discussion with other present. Subsequently, Mr. Weideman withdrew from standing as president and was elected as vice president of his cricket. Dr. Nkafisang was elected unopposed as president, like in any other ordinary election process. At pages 2421 and 2801, Mbesi, alleged interference by Mr. Weideman. Annexure C, I refer to Annexure C to Dr. Nkafisang's submissions. Dr. Nkafisang's version of what transpired is incorrect and denied. Dr. Nkafisang attached what he phrases as an email thread marked as Annexure C and D. The essence thereof is repeated in Mr. Machabi's and Mr. Mbesi's version. First and foremost, undue interference by Mr. Weideman did not occur, and it is denied. The email is quoted to misinterpret Mr. Weideman's intention and commitment to transformation, when in fact it illustrates the stark opposite. We highlight and quote specifically from Mr. Weideman's email, Annexure C, with reference to the following sentence. I wrote the email to the employee after I called him and after I explained to him what had been decided at the cricket committee meeting. And after the employee then told me that he was in fact not going to look at other players, especially players of color, as he has enough players. Mr. Weideman made reference to a promising black player as well as other players who were not afforded an opportunity, as well as other players who were not afforded an opportunity to participate in the trials. It is emphasized that Mr. Weideman did not intervene in selections, but rather sought to ensure an opportunity for these players at the trials. The contents of the emails are self-explanatory on face value and confirmed by Mr. Weideman in his confirmatory affidavit annexed hereto as Annexure North West Cricket 3. At page 2422, consideration of the appointment of Chris Jacobs, shortlisted candidate as finance administrator during or about 2016-2017. The relevance and the context of these accusations are vague and non-specific. Although I was not part of the process, but it is clear it is not clear what the complaint is about. The process of shortlisting and consideration of expectations and the like are the day-to-day functions. It does not relate to player remuneration at Northwest Cricket. This candidate, that's Mr. Jacobs, was not offered employment at Northwest Cricket because Dr. Gisang was not prepared to consider his application with his salary requests. Affidavit by Mr. Mpho Selewa, we refer to page 7 to 9, at page 224 and 2808 of Mbesi, alleged disparity of remuneration and Johannes de Seku's contractual terms. I refer also to our supplementing submission dated the 30th of October after Mr. Mselewa's affidavit was presented to us. Basically, it's more or less the same as we say in this, that we indicate in this original affidavit. Insofar as Mr. Selewa's submissions are concerned, the allegations refer to the period during 2010, which makes it extremely difficult to locate and verify records dating back 11 years. However, I was able to establish that the first time any player on a semi-professional contract earned 15,000 Rand per month was only during or about the 2020-2021 cricket season. The allegations in respect of Mr. Johannes de Seku's contractual terms are yet again misplaced.
Mr. Prinsloo,
yes.
on that part, again, the union doesn't provide us any documentary proof of that. So on the one hand, Mr. Selewa alleges that other players were being paid 15,000 Rand while he was, not getting paid that, and he was getting paid about 2.5 at the time. And the union is saying that there were that at that time no player was being paid 15,000 Rand, and that the first time players were paid 15,000 Rand was during or about the 2020 or 2021 cricket season. But you haven't provided us any proof of that.
It's easy to prove those that information, ma'am, is also available from Cricket South Africa. In terms of the 2021 season, we can provide you with the memorandum that was sent from Cricket South Africa in terms of the 2020-21 season, as well as payroll data and documentation to that regard. In terms of 2010, as I've said, it's extremely difficult to locate and verify records dating back 11 years. So I doubt if we will be able to verify what happened in 2010.
Would CSA have those records?
In the 2021 season, we are happy to oblige and provide you with the proof of that.
Right, but it won't assist us if we're not able to compare with the 2010, 2011 records. So would CSA have those records?
I'm not too sure, as it is a little bit before my time, so I can't comment with authority on it, but I'm not too sure if Cricket South Africa actually funded these salaries back in 2010. I think it was before the activity-based and the semi-professional program was implemented, but I'm under correction for that, but I'll try my best to see what we can get for 2010, but if you just look at the numbers in terms of the 50,000 Rand per month that's only been implemented in 2020-2021, it is highly unlikely that any player was paid 15,000 in 2020, but in 2010. But I'll see what I can find in terms of documentary proof for you guys.
No problem, thank you.
The allegations in respect of Johannes de Seku's contractual terms are yet again misplaced. Northwest Cricket is adversely mentioned in respect of Johannes de Seku's current contractual terms, more specifically his remuneration, advancing the position that as the longest serving player, it should be better. Johannes de Seku does not confirm or verify these complaints. Johannes de Seku played on a semi-professional level and on occasion on a franchise level. Firstly, it is imperative to note that years of service are not a commercial factor or indicator when deciding on a player's remuneration. The remuneration packages of players are no different from any other economic and financial exchange. Agreements are concluded between players and North West Cricket. The terms are negotiated and agreed upon, striking a balance based on the principles of supply and demand, typically applicable to cricketing terms. These terms include interprovincial demand, player profile, as well as the player statistics, the individual skill set of a player, the team composition, and of course, Cricket South Africa transformation requirements, to name but a few. As a matter of fact, I can confirm that Johannes de Seko's annual remuneration doubled in 2021 in comparison with his 2020 remuneration, applying the above criteria. I further absolutely deny that Johannes de Seko had ever requested me for an annual remuneration package in the amount as alleged by Dr. Kagisang, as this never happened. It is denied that all white players are remunerated upwards of 600,000 rand, and that the captain is currently contracted for approximately 1.1 million rand. Currently, the lowest contract is on 221,000 rand, which is coincidentally a white player. Based on the criteria and economic principles highlighted above, player remuneration at North West Cricket varies. The highest of North West Cricket being in the proximity of 900,000 rand per annum. The criticism in respect of the comparisons made between Senaran Mthesami and Johannes de Seko's remuneration and their inclusion in the team setup are also vague and non-specific. It is not clear on what basis, other than the objective criteria mentioned above, North West Cricket is required to consider and apply in respect of these two individuals. Mr. Mthesami placed most of his cricket on franchise level and even went on to represent the players. Although he is a similar type of bowler to Mr. de Seko, a left-arm spinner, Mr. Mthesami is in fact a top-order batsman as well. Therefore, it is unrealistic and unfair to compare the skill sets and player profile of these two players with each other in the manner as was done, and to express criticism which, objectively viewed, is totally unfounded. At page 2425, accommodation offered to players. North West Cricket did not award a contract to any player which included or made provision for accommodation as part of any obligatory contractual terms. North West Cricket, however, made some facilities available to be used as accommodation by the players who may need to be provided with accommodation. It was offered completely free of charge. Some of these facilities were indeed situated under the main pavilion of the cricket stadium. This happened before my time, but it's my understanding that it was occupied by players of all races, including white players who went on to present South Africa A team. I also refer now here to our supplementary submission dated the 13th of October, which entails to Mr. Silowa's accusations. The White House and all other accommodation were administered on the same terms to all players equally.
Which paragraph are you reading there, Mr. Prinsloo? Which paragraph are you reading in the supplementary dated 13 October?
Okay. I refer to point 2 on the supplementary submission, Mr. Silowa, at paragraph 26. Insofar as Mr. Silowa's concerned, allegation referred to the period during 2010, which makes... Okay, no, sorry, that's for the remuneration. In terms of point 3 on our supplementary submission, that I refer to, let me just get the first, the second page, point 3, sorry, Mr. Loba, at page 29, paragraph 29, and that's page 8 of his affidavit. He used to briefly highlight the contradiction between the submissions and oral testimony on page 2425 to 2426 regarding the accommodation offered at North West Cricket. Some makes allegation that the White House was reserved for white players and that it was superior to the other accommodation available to players at North West Cricket. The submission by Mrs. Loba of his placement at the White House effectively confirms North West Cricket's submission that in fact accommodation was administered to all players on the same terms and equally respected the players. North West Cricket denies the allegation by Mrs. Loba for reasons detailed in paragraph 73 to 75 in our submission, which we are busy dealing with, copied herein below for ease of reference. So that brings me to
Mr.
what we've just.
Mr. Prinsloo, I know this was obviously before your time as CEO in Northwest,
Yes.
but we heard allegations from Dr. Opang Kahasang, we heard from Mr. Mposilowa, as well as Mr. Papimbese, who all stated that no white players lived in the White House and that it was reserved for black players. And they gave us examples of those black players who lived there at the time. So would you perhaps know which white players lived in the White House?
No, I don't. I don't know which white players stayed in the White House. I do know that there were white players staying under the main pavilion. That I know from what I've heard from interviews I had with Mr. Fall and so forth, because that happened during his time. I cannot comment with authority in terms of if there was white players in the White House.
So is the union disputing that there were only black players in the White House? Is the union disputing that or stating that they don't have knowledge of that fact?
No, I don't have knowledge if it was only black players staying there. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
Who would be in a position to rebut that from the union? Do you know?
I think that Mr. Jacques was a CEO in that time, and after Mr. Hendrik Strydom, we can approach them to make a submission in that regard.
Jacques Fall. Did you say Jacques? Jacques Fall?
Yes, Jacques. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did say.
All right. He probably would know.
Yes, he would.
Yes. Okay. We'll make note of that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. If I can continue on, can I continue, ma'am?
What page were you at?
I was at page 20.
Okay.
Yes, but sorry,
This is
Mr.
confirmed to me
Prinsloo.
the position dating back to at least 2009.
Just a moment. Advocate Ngele wants to ask a further question.
Yes. So as you're stating that the union doesn't have knowledge of the fact that only black players stayed in the White House, but in your affidavit on page 19, paragraph 74, in the last two lines, you say, the White House and all other accommodation were administered on the same terms to all players equally.
I think that we got that information from Mr. Strydom, if I recall correctly. And I referred to NWC 4, which is his confirmatory affidavit.
So what was he confirming there? What was Heinrich confirming there? Was he confirming that there were white players in the White House?
I can only assume so, ma'am. I cannot comment to that with authority. We'll have to get confirmation from him.
No problem. Thank you.
Right, if I continue on page 20, paragraph 75, the Eldra Hotel remains a reputable private hotel in Potchefstroom. The owner is a long-standing supporter of Northwest Cricket. Without this contribution, Northwest Cricket is otherwise not able to offer the players a place to stay free of charge. This accommodation, criticised by Dr. Ntsebeza, is in fact carpeted and properly furnished, complete with a fridge, TV stove, and complimentary cleaning services twice a week. Some of the cricket players, however, vandalised the rooms, as noted in the written submission by the Eldra Hotel itself. It has since been available and allocated to the Leopard rugby union players. In this regard, see the letter from the Eldra Hotel annex here to and up to C5. At page 2427, salary increases and Cricket South Africa funding models. These allegations are yet again not factually correct. Mr. Strydom was CEO of Northwest Cricket until June 2017 when he resigned and became the CEO of the Northwest franchise. Strydom confirms that the Cricket South Africa funding model did not cover all positions, and therefore most of the staff were required to multitask and to fulfill various roles to ensure that Northwest Cricket can operate in a positive financial space. Mr. Freedom's confirmed affidavit is attached here to mark NWC 4. During or about May 2017, both Ms. Leandra Smith and Tommy Piri received salary increases of 5,000 and 6,000 rand respectively. The increases commutes to 22% for Ms. Smith and 26% increase for Mr. Piri. The remainder of the staff members received a 6% salary increase. The individuals referred to did get properly remunerated for these services. Yet again, it is difficult to understand why Dr. Kagisang raised these issues out of context and which are not actually correct. At page 2428 to 2429, complained that Tommy Piri ought to be a senior manager. At the time when Cricket South Africa had put in place an activity-based funding model intended for certain positions at union level and in accordance with its presidential plan, Dr. Jacob Peens, Tommy Piri, and Solomon Meki were all managers. Dr. Peens was by far the most experienced and more senior at the time. Dr. Kagisang put forward an organogram and insisted that Mr. Piri should be promoted to senior manager. Thereby, Dr. Peens, who was a senior manager, would effectively be promoted. To accept and implement Dr. Kagisang's proposal would have been unfair labour practice, whilst fair practice dictates a process of interviews, etc., which is open to all persons who are interested in applying for the said positions. Eventually, Dr. Peens remained in his position as senior manager, and Mr. Piri was appointed in a senior management position in order to avoid any unfair labour practices. Allegations levelled in the manner in which it was is therefore devoid of any merit. See the confirmatory affidavits by Mr. Jan Weideman and Mr. Heinrich Strydom. Annex here to as Annexure North West Cricket 3 and NWC 4 respectively. At page 2429, Conrad de Swart's exchange, the presidential team signing off. Mr. Weideman confirms that Dr. Kagisang objected to Conrad de Swart not making the team sheet available for signing off, as had indeed been the practice with all previous presidents. CSA had always set specific targets that had to be achieved. Team selections are done by the selection panel and is presented to the CEO and the president for approval and sign. The board, in support of the request by Dr. Kagisang, later confirmed the selection process and signing of practice by the president. At page 2430 and 2826, reports implemented since 2012. This is denied that Dr. Kagisang was the first person to implement an analysis report after the National Youth Weeks. It was actually first implemented by Jacques Full prior to his departure from North West Cricket in 2012. In addition, CSA implemented the Quality of Opportunity program to ensure correlation between selection and the actual opportunities afforded during these tournaments. It was implemented by CSA during or about 2015. Dr. Kagisang was selected as president only on the 1st of August 2016. At pages 2432, 2805 to 2808 from Mr. Mbesi, coaches Jimmy Gemari, Craig Alexander and Monty Jacobs. Monty Jacobs is currently appointed as the head coach of the Northwest Dragons senior provincial team. It is a performance-based fixed-term agreement. Save for confirming that Monty Jacobs is a qualified level 3 coach and that he is indeed experienced in excess of 20 years as a coach. All the allegations are denied in an affidavit by Mr. Jacobs is annexed here to and marked NWC 6. Monty Jacobs' coaching tenure and results are consistent as he produced at least 8 players who went on to represent our national team, the Proteas. Monty Jacobs was assisted by Jimmy Gemari for approximately 10 years ongoing until May 2021. Jimmy Gemari, who is a level 3 qualified coach, however received an offer from Gauteng Lions, also as an assistant coach, which unfortunately Northwest Cricket did not afford to match, and he left for the Gauteng Lions. The submissions made by Mr. Bessie in respect to Craig Alexander are perplexing. While the mandate of the SJN Hearings are to take note of any discriminatory practices, Northwest Cricket is adversely mentioned for appointing Craig Alexander, who is a person of colour under the following circumstances. He is a qualified level 2 coach, and he is vastly experienced, having represented South Africa 18 on several occasions. It was determined that these aforesaid attributes were sufficient to achieve the outcome of the coaching role as advertised, and at the same time to facilitate transformation. If anything, this illustrates North West Cricket's commitment and focus on creating opportunities for coaches and commitment to transformation. At pages 2434, Dr. Kagisang, 2800 and 2818, and page 2826, Mr. Mochabi and Mr. Mbesi, high performance coach and other instances of alleged regression. I can confirm that my predecessors were often confronted with comparable circumstances which required North West Cricket to undergo restructuring and other measures to be implemented due to financial challenges. In contradiction to the allegations made by Dr. Kagisang, records reflect that Hendrik de Vos was employed by North West Cricket as early as 1 April 2011 and specifically appointed as a high performance coach only on 1 May 2015. Dr. Kagisang, as we know, was only elected as president on 1 August 2016. It was therefore impossible for him to claim that what he refers to. During 2019, the high-performance coaching functional role could no longer be accommodated in the budget of North West Cricket whilst operating under financial constraints. New process was followed to do away with the position of high-performance coach, and Hendrik de Vos was offered an alternative role at North West Cricket. He, however, elected not to take up the alternative role offered and was retrenched on the 31st of August 2019. Whilst Dr. Kagisang places emphasis on Hendrik de Vos' disappointment, ostensibly emanating from Dr. Kagisang's initiative and subsequent to his election as president, that being at odds with the records, as he was only elected as president on 1 August 2016. It is denied that these allegations may be advanced as an example of gains being implemented and then somehow reversed to the detriment of transformation at North West Cricket at large. Further submissions on the proposed gains now reversed at North West Cricket include Mr. Mochabi's evidence at page 2800 alleges that at some point North West Cricket was well transformed on a 50-50 ratio. This is factually incorrect for the reasons already set out here in above, as the ratio was much higher than that. Mochabi's version at page 2804 that Ms. Jiggy Gemari was an employee of North West Cricket. At the time, Mr. Gemari was a full-time assistant coach of the Dragons senior team. He had also been the Dragons under-19 coach for some time. Due to the evident time constraints in coaching both teams, which was placed on Mr. Gemari, it was decided to approach another coach for the 19th team. The coaching role was an ad hoc role for the tournament week only. Cricket decided to put forward Mr. Andries Huyssalman's name. Mr. Andries Huyssalman is qualified as a level 3 coach at one of the more successful cricket playing schools in the province with consistent results in past seasons. He is not employed by North West Cricket. This appointment was approved by Dr. Kagisang. On pages 2438, Dr. Kagisang, and 2809, Mr. Mochabi and Mr. Mbesi, disciplinary proceedings of coaches. There is a substantial difference between the circumstances surrounding the incidences referred to by Dr. Kagisang, the full details of which will not be discussed herein. Disciplinary proceedings were duly undertaken in both instances. The records of the disciplinary proceedings will be made available on request if required to verify these submissions. The submission by Dr. Kagisang that Mr. Seychelles was clear is denied. In essence, disciplinary proceedings against Mr. Dumpy Schmidt during April 2018 and May 2018 was brought on after it was reported that he shared a brief but in an inappropriate moment with one of the senior female players at the restaurant in plain view of the public and other players. He was found guilty of his transgression and he was suspended without pay for a period of 3 months. In the case of Mr. Seychelles, it involved allegations by minor girls, allegedly brought on by the coach's inappropriate conduct as he had to bear with him and he went to their sleeping quarters. The other detail which we are advised not to disclose in the submissions. Investigations were conducted and the disciplinary hearing was held during January 2020 and all the evidence led and completed. but the proceedings was adjourned for purposes of a finding by the chairperson. However, before the finding could be made, Mr. Tau decided to resign, stating in his resignation letter that he had done so voluntarily. His letter of resignation is attached here to marked as NWC 7. The comparison between the two cases, as highlighted, is therefore totally misplaced and materially distinguishable in the facts from each other. It is therefore unclear why this issue was raised. At page 2440 and page 2798 and 2799, allegations that North West Cricket seeks to centralise power, effective control and funding. I think Song states that he envisaged the inclusion of Itachen Cricket Club into the Premier League, when in fact it had already been included in that league since the 2014-2015 season, save for admitting that Impala Cricket Club did not compete in the 2020-21 season. The remainder of submissions by Dr. Nkisang is factually incorrect. The factual position is that Impala Cricket Club withdrew from competing due to circumstances largely beyond the control of North West Cricket and Impala Cricket Club, being the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and also that their grounds were absorbed into a commercial mode development in Rustenburg. Impala Cricket Club have since confirmed the return to the competition in the North West Cricket Club League structures as of the 21-22 season. Subsequent to the withdrawal of Impala Cricket Club from the Premier League in Rustenburg, North West Cricket received an application to promote the Geek Academy Cricket Club, also from Rustenburg, to the Premier League. Through this opportunity, the Geek Academy Cricket Club received the benefits of the Premier League funding model. In addition to this, all their transport requirements were funded by North West Cricket to ensure the full advantage of this opportunity to its players. Mr. Machabi is also the chairperson of the Geek Academy Cricket. It is factually incorrect for Mr. Machabi from the proceedings at Vryburg was forced to accept the decision of the Members' Council, as they are represented by the Members' Council being a Premier League club. I confirm that the expansion to Vryburg was implemented during the 2021 season, when Ramblers Cricket Club was admitted to compete in the Premier League, thereby also reaping the full benefits of the Premier League funding model and a representative seat on the Members' Council. The submission in terms of in respect of Lichtenburg Cricket Club being sidelined is also factually incorrect and is therefore denied. Lichtenburg Cricket Club was not excluded, but had in fact taken the decision to withdraw from the Premier League, citing their inability to be competitive in that league. Lichtenburg Cricket Club is still competing in a lower league called the Promotion League, where they are more comfortable in participating. The Promotion League, however, is also part of the North West Cricket League. On pages 2795 to 798, Mr. Machabi elaborates on the structure and voting rights of the Members' Council. It is denied that certain shortcomings in the member structure are maintained to create a balance of power in North West Cricket. The compilation and rights of the North West Members' Council are currently dictated by the MOI. North West Cricket had already identified some of the shortcomings created by the MOI and is working with Cricket South Africa to effect an amendment to the MOI. The amendments will ensure that the Members' Council can be aligned and that geopolitical objectives as directed by SACSCOC are achieved. It is important to note now that much work has been done since in terms of the geopolitical alignment according to SACSCOC, as last week the last of the 4 district committees was established in the 4 districts in the Northwest Province. So we have moved forward as a province in terms of these actions that need to be taken to adhere to SACSCOC. At page 2440, additional funding by Northwest Cricket to Potchefstroom Cricket Club. Potchefstroom Cricket Club as a club or in relation to general club activities are not receiving additional funding from Northwest Cricket advanced to be the case. As a matter of fact, the payment by Northwest Cricket to Potchefstroom Cricket Club is for the upkeep and use of the facilities known as Veteran Stadium. Veteran Stadium is the home ground of Potchefstroom Cricket Club, but also the official B field of Northwest Cricket, which is used as a home venue for the Senwes Dragons women's team whenever Senwes Park is not available. Just to mention that the Senwes Dragons women's team is one of the 2 top teams currently in the country in terms of performance. In 2020, Witron Stadium was also used as a venue for the ICC Under-19 World Cup tournament that was hosted in Potchefstroom. It is the ideal venue to host international teams and other touring teams, from which the union creates an additional revenue stream. Witron Stadium is in a close proximity to Sandwich Park, 3.6 kilometers, and offers a safe environment. Witron's part and role in Northwest Cricket's capacity to host tournaments of any caliber in Potchefstroom. Therefore, it makes financial, cricket, and economic sense to upkeep this facility. Other than that, no additional funding is made available to Potchefstroom Cricket. At page 2828 to 2831, comments regarding facilities unduly directed at Northwest Cricket. Mr. Mchabe and Mr. Mbesi refers to the selection of stadium names and to the general condition of stadiums and facilities in rural areas. As a blanket reply thereon, those functions are performed and financed by local and provincial governmental structures, for instance, the local municipalities. Northwest Cricket's commitment and progress in transforming cricket cannot be determined and measured on these submissions. Instead, Northwest Cricket contributes to local facilities in the preparation of the pitches for the use thereof free of charge. It is denied that Northwest Cricket misplaced an amount of 1.5 million allocated to build the stadium in Mafeking during or about 2011-2012. The amount of 1.5 million is just not adequate to build the stadium and is simply not enough. The correct position is that the National Lottery provided funding for the palisade fencing, the centre wicket, and the irrigation system, establishing a pitch in Mafeking. Actual development and construction of the stadium was the responsibility of the Mafeking local municipality. They made attempts to commence with the project, but never completed it. A confirmatory affidavit by Mr. Ismail Minty is annexed hereto and marked Northwest Cricket 8. I was unable to find records on the above matter. However, Mr. Ismail Minty, who has been in the employ of Northwest Cricket ongoing for 22 years, confirmed that Northwest Cricket duly executed and applied the funds for purposes of building the pitch in Mafeking. He further confirmed that the reason for the alleged uncompleted state of that stadium was indeed because the municipality was placed under administration at the time and therefore did not complete the project. The funds were utilized for the groundwork and irrigation and the fencing before the project was halted. It was reported to me that an independent audit was done. I can confirm that the National Lottery does not make further grants unless previous grants were applied appropriately. We do have records from 2017 indicating that a further allocation of 380,000 rand was made to Northwest Cricket emanating from the National Lottery. At pages 2445 to 447, Jaco Everson alleged conspiracy. I confirm my appointment date again as being the 1st of November 2018. In addition to the records at my disposal, Mr. Weideman confirms that Elmarie Rood and Marlies Verseer resigned to pursue better opportunities. From the records, I can confirm that upon their departure, Aluvile Niakambi and Rico Ramaketi were appointed in their positions respectively. At present, Louis Creer, Solomon Meki, and Ismail Minty are still employed by Northwest Cricket. Mr. Strydom denies the submissions made by Dr. Kapisang and by implication also that of Mr. Everson, as contained in Annex B of Dr. Kapisang's submission. Upon Mr. Strydom's resignation, records indicate that Northwest Cricket was in the best financial position ever. Mr. Strydom accepted an appointment as CEO at the Dolphins, one of the top performing franchises in the country. At page 2448, Mr. Vincent Pryor. Mr. Vincent Pryor's response to the submissions made by Dr. Nakagisang is self-explanatory. It is incorporated into this response on behalf of Northwest Cricket. The confirmatory affidavit by Mr. Pryor is annexed hereto and marked Northwest Cricket 9. At page 2455, private use Northwest Cricket equipment by staff for groundsmen. I'm not in a position to investigate these allegations as Ms. Rood left the employment of Northwest Cricket during or about 2017. In general, when Northwest Cricket programs are facilitated at schools and club grounds throughout the Northwest Province, Northwest Cricket assists in the preparation of the pitches or the grounds. Staff are then transported as far as Vryburg together with Northwest Cricket equipment to perform these functions. Northwest Cricket employee records do not reflect the details of groundsmen who passed away during the course of their duties, as detailed by the Gisang. Given the limited information provided in support thereof, I was unable to make further inquiries thereon. At page 2458 to 2460, the findings against Dr. Gisang. Save for referring to the findings, conclusions, and the recommendations from the Belmont report annexed here, which is self-explanatory. We do not make any submissions in regard to the allegations against Dr. Gisang during his tenure as President of Northwest Cricket. The relevant extract of the report containing the recommendations and findings is annexed here to and marked NWC 10. On page 2461, administration of Northwest Cricket to Pretoria / Cricket South Africa. Cricket South Africa commissioned a report and had taken the decision to place Northwest Cricket under administration. The appointment of Mr. Eugene Pretorius as independent administrator was similarly decided and implemented by Cricket South Africa. I confirm that Mr. Pretorius is neither remunerated by Northwest Cricket nor is he employed by Northwest Cricket. Northwest Cricket is unable to reply or comment on the proceedings of his appointment as the administrator and or his remuneration by Cricket South Africa, save for what is stated herein below. Given Mr. Pretorius' independence, he was not in any position to release the reports commissioned and in possession of Cricket South Africa to Dr. Gisang. Dr. Gisang insisted that Mr. Pretorius provide him with a copy. Mr. Wells Gwaza, who was the company secretary of Cricket South Africa at the time, managed the reproduction and publication of reports on behalf of Cricket South Africa. Dr. Gisang's frustration with Mr. Pretorius and therefore CSA, as submitted in his oral testimony, is misdirected at Northwest Cricket. Mr. Pretorius confirms that he approached Dr. Gisang that set up a meeting on the 12th of April 2021. At the said meeting, Mr. Pretorius provided Dr. Gisang with a copy of a proposed settlement agreement and requested him to consider the same. Mr. Pretorius recalls the meeting as cautious and amicable, despite the fact that no agreement was reached. The confirmatory affidavit by Mr. Pretorius annexed here to as Annex here NWC 11. Submissions by Dr. Gisang, Mr. Mochabe, and Mr. Mbesi relating to me and my ability as CEO are adverse to the extent that the unsubstantiated nature thereof needs to be addressed in detail. I again refer to the affidavit by Mr. Weideman in this regard. Written submissions made by Dr. Gisang, page 5F, transformation as an imperative, and page 2436, Dr. Gisang. Ma'am, I believe this is where we will probably address your question from earlier. Staff ratio was never 50-50 as submitted. However, the table below illustrates the date of first appointments of positions specifically named by Dr. Gisang, clearly disproving the submission that because of me, it had the effect of restoring the alleged status quo at Northwest Cricket. Save for Yolandi Pretorius and Wynand Smith, whose respective appointments did not alter the employment ratio. All the employees mentioned below were already employed as at 1 November 2018. The appointment of Yolandi Pretorius did not alter the ratio because White replaced White. Wynand Smith was previously employed as a fixed-term assistant coach and became the head coach on a fixed-term contract. I think the below table, ma'am, is an indication of my appointment on the 1st of November, and all the persons that we were criticized for was already in those positions before the 1st of November. So we couldn't actually drive this thing backwards. It was already in place at the time of my appointment.
Okay, so Mr. Prinsloo.
That is the table that I've recorded.
Mr. Prinsloo, then, because in your affidavit, it's not clear whether you confirm or deny the allegations that the management of the union is majority white. So hence I wanted to just refer you back to Dr. Nkachisang's affidavit or statement rather, where he says that the administrator of Northwest is white male, the CEO is white male, which is you, the finance manager, it's a white female, the head coach, white male, the head groundsman, the head groundsman, white male, woman's head coach, white male, high performance trainer, white male, umpire chairman, white male, and the CS manager is a white male. Oh, sorry, Indian male. Is that correct?
Except for the high performance trainer, which we haven't got at the moment. Like previously, we indicated that we did away with that position. That is correct, but that is correct as you just stated there. But I think to reflect on it, we must look at the appointment dates of all these people. That it was a long time ago, and they've been appointed in those positions for a very long time. So it is my presentation that because of labour issues, labour law issues, one just cannot get rid of these people just for the sake of doing so. So I don't know. That's all I actually can contribute to your question.
So then how is the union transformed if the management is composed with majority white people?
Every opportunity that arises in terms of new appointments or people that resign or whatever the case may be, they leave our employment. Transformation is in the forefront of our consideration to fill that position. So, like I said, in terms of these positions, and especially on management level, these guys have been in our employment for a long time. And so, in terms of the head coach, he's got a performance-based contract for 2 years now. So there might be opportunity in future to look at that. So the only answer I can give you is that whenever an opportunity arises that we have to make a new appointment, that transformation is very hard on the agenda.
And what is the board's view on this composition? Does anyone in the union take issue with this composition?
Well, I as a CEO take issue with this and look for opportunities to do. In terms of the board, we haven't got a board currently. We are under administration with just the administrator, which was appointed by Cricket South Africa. So we are looking to have a AGM on the 30th of October, which is the plan, which if everything goes well, we will have a new board in place right after that meeting. So in future, probably that will be high up on the agenda of that board. I cannot at this stage speak for them yet.
Now, I mean, if, as I understand your evidence, all the positions are filled, and I don't know for how long, and let's assume in your favor that your board or the board that is going to come in are committed to transformation, and that the understanding about transformation is that we should have a representative structure in Northwest. We now have a lily white structure in charge, or just as near a lily white structure as you can get. And the attitude is that, well, you can't just take people out of positions because they are contractually, as I understand it, they are contractually related, or they are contractually bound to the union. So is there no thinking out of the box? Is there no plan which focuses on transformation? And if we understand transformation similarly, to be saying there must be some fair representation of all races and genders, but in this case, perhaps race is only going to be the criterion to be looked at. Are you throwing your hands up in the air and saying, "Oh well, there's nothing we can do about it. They are in positions, they are contracted. We have no other plan. Let's let things go on as they are until perhaps their term of office comes to an end." I just want to get your sense about what you are meaning by saying, well, there are people in those positions and you can just get rid of them.
Mr. Chair, for the past few years was a bit of a case where I had to do a kind of an ambulance job, and in terms of forward thinking, I admit that not much time yet was spent on thinking forward in terms of a restructuring process. But I'm sure that once we've normalized in the sense that we'll have a board of directors very soon, I think that will be high on this agenda in terms of looking at the transformation and the restructuring maybe of management positions in the company.
Yeah, I mean, look,
so I'm not close to the idea, if that answers you.
Yeah.
But in your affidavit, Mr. Prinsloo, you don't, that is not apparent, because in, for example, the paragraph, let me just take you to the paragraph that you referenced to earlier on, where you say that there is a black staff working there. If I may just take you to the relevant paragraph.
Yeah, if you on page 36 of my affidavit, I've included the table, which indicates quite
paragraph
nicely
143. There is a table there where you have role, you have the name, you have date of first employment. Are you referring to that? It would be on page 35.
I'm referring to paragraph 144.
Oh, that would be page.
Paragraph 144, there's a table that was set out how those 71 and 84% was calculated.
Yes, it's page 36.
Pipeline coaches. So that gives you a kind of a better understanding of the representation on our staff currently.
Yes. So, Mr. Prinsloo, I wanted to take you to paragraph 31, 32, which where I understand also links with paragraph 144, where you state that...
Just repeat the paragraph number, please.
Okay.
31. So when you deal with the allegations on transformation in paragraph 31, you state that at the time of my appointment as CEO of NWC on 1 November 2018, our transformation numbers among staff, coaches, and ground staff, collectively referred to as employees, reflected 71%, comprising of African and Black African individuals. And then you go on to just, So I just want to understand, as you're saying to us that you are committed to, transformation and transforming management, why is there no acknowledgement from you, Mr. Prinsloo, in your affidavit to say that, yes, our management is majority white? Why do you instead make reference to the staff and the ground staff that is majority black?
No, well, if it's not in my affidavit, I do acknowledge now that we will be looking into a kind of a restructuring process in future. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Prinsloo.
Yes. Carry on, Mr. Prinsloo. Where were you at?
Page 36.
Yes.
We've just spoken about paragraph 144, which is the table of contents that I've just discussed with you. So I'll just proceed to add page 2811 to 2813, additional allegations by Mr. Mostwabi and Mbesi. I confirm that Northwest Cricket staff and equipment are used off-site. The Northwest Cricket programs are facilitated at school and club grounds throughout the Northwest Province. As Northwest Cricket assists in the preparation of the grounds, staff are transported to as far as Vryburg, together with Northwest Equipment, to perform these required functions. It is denied that groundsmen aren't provided with personal protection equipment. Groundsmen were the first to receive PPE during or about April 2020, and PPE is continually made available at Northwest Cricket. Page 2811, use of staff and equipment at private residence. I'm not aware of the near drowning incident or any other allegations. Such alleged behavior is against Northwest Cricket policy, and any instances thereof would be subjected to the appropriate investigations and disciplinary proceedings if reported to Northwest Cricket. Page 2812, it is denied that Mr. Johan Lowe had abused an umpire. There was also no inquiry to that effect. The confirmatory affidavit by Mr. Johan Lowe is annexed here to and marked NWC 12. Page 2813, the allegations that Mr. Seysetel was forced to resign is denied. During my own investigations, I could not find any report or complaint as alleged. Mr. Tao did not confirm these allegations, and as such, his letter of resignation served only an official version of his resignation being voluntary. The affidavit by Dr. Piens is annexed here to and marked in WC 13. At page 2814, Stepmar Sunset, use of kitchen facilities. The records confirm that Mr. Stephen Collins signed the service level agreement and pays R3,000 excluding that to make use of the kitchen facilities at Northwest Cricket. At page 2820, JB Marks local municipality grant allegedly retained by Northwest Cricket. Adverse allegations are made by Mr. Mbesi that the JB Marks local municipality pays a grant over to Northwest Cricket, which is supposed to be used for the maintenance and follow-up overly. These allegations are factually incorrect, as the grant is determined by a signed lease agreement between Northwest Cricket and JB Marks municipality. In terms of the lease agreement, these funds are earmarked for the upkeep and maintenance of Senwes Park. The agreement has been in place for many years and can be provided on request. It is my understanding that it is indeed the local municipality that is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the Sean Pollock Overhead. Every year during March in English County and on English Academy or school sites, even university teams visit Potchefstroom as part of their pre-season program. Northwest Cricket has for many years created an additional income stream by facilitating these visits. In addition, it creates opportunities for cricket players in the Northwest Province to play against these county school players in Potch. Every year during June or July, Northwest Cricket has paid for travel to England to market Senwes Park as an international standard practice facility. I can confirm that Leon Smith, Dr. Nakagisang, Mr. Archie Pretorius, and Andrew Strydom attended these trips in the past. During 2019, Cricket South Africa invited all CEOs of members in South Africa on a 50% subsidized accommodation and flights trip to the Cricket World Cup. Watch 3 group matches of the Proteas. Find this privilege to visit various counties to market Northwest Cricket and Senwes Park. A travel agency partnered with Northwest Cricket and accompanied me on these visits. Our itinerary is available on request. Page 2827 to 2828, unwarranted, unsubstantiated testimony by Mr. Mbesi. It frustrates me, to say the least, that Mr. Mbesi regards the SJN hearing to be an appropriate forum to make unwarranted and unfounded statements about my minors. The statistics confirm that the statements and allegations are not only malicious but factually devoid of any truth and are likely made from a point of a disgruntled ex-employee without any merit. I do refer you to the supplementary affidavit of 9th of September and the WhatsApp message from Mr. Mbesi, and therefore I will skip the next few paragraphs, which is just only the statistics that I provided in terms of my son's performances on the cricket field. I will start again at paragraph 164. I deny that I have ever abused an umpire, let alone a black umpire as alleged. This is malicious and factually incorrect accusation levels against me without any justification at all. At page 2843, Francois van der Merwe's Bakkie. The entire submission and the reference to the alleged inequality and administration of Northwest Cricket premised thereon are devoid of any truth and are denied. On the 18th of June 2020, North West Cricket obtained a valuation of the vehicle in question, where after it was sold to Frans van der Merwe for consideration of 234,600 rand. When Mr. van der Merwe approached North West Cricket and specifically requested to buy the bakkie, as he had been using it for a period of several years by then. Mr. van der Merwe had already paid a deposit of 59,003 rand by means of installments on the said bakkie and paid finance for the balance of the purchase price. North West Cricket issued an invoice of 175 to Mr. van der Merwe on the 24th of July 2020 and removed it from the North West Cricket insurance schedule with effect 1st of July. Mr. van der Merwe then settled the balance of the purchase price and duly took possession of the bakkie. All the supporting documents are attached hereto, marked collectively as Annexure NWC 15. Transformation of umpires. Allegation that all meetings and everything happens in Afrikaans is also denied, as it is devoid of the truth. Any material, notices, agendas, minutes, etc. all conducted in English, which objectively disputes these allegations and are available on request. Meetings are conducted in English, and since 2019, recording of such meetings were made and are similarly available on request. There is thus objective proof that these allegations that everything is done in Afrikaans is nothing but a malicious fabrication. The North West Cricket Umpires Association is an affiliated body to North West Cricket. The confirmatory affidavit by its current president, Mr. Lowe, is attached hereto and marked NWC 12. My summary or closing submission by North West Cricket to the transformation ambit. North West Cricket remains committed to serve the best interests of all cricket players, administrators and other stakeholders in the sport in a transparent and equal manner. It remains committed to the transformation charter of Cricket South Africa and to ensure that it will at all relevant times comply with the other guidelines and directions issued by Cricket South Africa for the development of cricket in all levels. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Prinsloo. I got a couple of questions. I have to say, this is a detailed response. Perhaps let's start with paragraph 148.
128.
148, which is on page 37, where you say Johan Lowe had confirmed in his affidavit at NWC 12 that he had not abused any empire as was alleged. Now, if one goes to that annexure NW12,
yes,
it doesn't appear that he is giving his version of events. I mean, there was an allegation there about the nature of the abuse. Do you think he's satisfactorily dealing with? It's a bad denial. He says, no, I never abused the person.
Look,
But
point 4, according to me, point 4 deals with it. He denies the allegations made against him.
Yes.
Page 2812 by Mr. Bessie.
and then you refer to NWC 12.
Yes, I'm referring to that as well. The second page, paragraph 4 of that NWC 12.
Yes. What I'm saying is, in NWC 12, as I read it, it is just a bare denial. It's not where he says my version of events are A, B, C, D, E. And on that basis, I deny that I abused this umpire. I don't know whether you read it the same way. Anyone who had heard about the details of the abuse would have expected that a denial should not just be a bad denial, but one that gives a version of the events on the basis of which then they say they deny.
Yeah, I cannot comment on. I cannot comment on Mr. Lou's affidavit, Chair, because I don't know what happened there. So I don't know if maybe our lawyer or legal representative can add something that might satisfy you.
No, you rely on it. You rely on the denial as being proof of the fact that what was alleged in the hearings here by the person who was alleging abuse, the person who was an umpire who was abused.
Okay, so
and the only way you know, look, you said, you read your paragraph 148. Your paragraph 148 says it is denied that Mr. Johan Law had abused an umpire. You state it as a categorical fact coming from you that Mr. Law did nothing. And you then says, and then you could then say, the confirmatory affidavit by Mr. Johan Law is annexed here too, as NWC 12.
This alleged incident happened before I was CEO, so I didn't do any inquiries on it. That's why I just spoke with Mr. Lowe.
So why do you say you deny it? Why don't you say, I don't know about this incident? Because even Johan Law himself, you know, you can ask your lawyer, and I'm sure he will understand what I'm saying. It is not appropriate for you, for something that you don't have first-hand knowledge of, to say, I deny that, because you are dismissing the allegation on the basis that you have the knowledge and the authority to deny it. You don't say, I don't know what happened. It was long before my time. Mr. Johan Law seems to deny it if you go to NWC 12. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
I'd just like to refer you to paragraph 8 of my affidavit, where I said, I've consulted as wide as I could. The little time afforded us with members of the administration managers still employed by me, as well as my predecessors were subject to the availability under the time pledge imposed. So yes, I did consult with him. So I suppose you have a point there in terms of I didn't know firsthand, but I did rely on Mr. Johan Low's affidavit to put that paragraph in.
Mr. Prinsloo, let me just read the allegation by Mr. Mbese, and then after that you can then tell us whether the incident of racial abuse, whether or the allegation of racial abuse, whether it came to your knowledge or not. So I'll just read the page 2812 from the transcript that you deny on your paragraph 148. Mr. Mbese says, I was an umpire. At some point here in Northwest, I was one of the best umpires. I went to Coke Week. I went to most of the tournaments in the province. Then came this guy by the name of Johan Law. Johan Law is the current president of the umpires. Me and him have never got along from the beginning. There was a tournament called Northwest Premier League or something. It was played at night at the stadium. The guy, and he's referring to Johan Law, in front of other white colleagues, called me the K word. But he obviously mentioned the K word in full at the hearings. And then he says, I reported the incident. You know what happened, Chair? Nothing happened. He comes later and he becomes the chairperson of the umpires. He gets rewarded for calling me, a black umpire, the K word. So this incident that he's talking about, is this what you denied? Did this come to your knowledge?
No, obviously this incident happened before my time as CEO, because, and as I alluded to, I couldn't find any documents in terms of that this allegation or was reported or something like that in the documents at the office. So I really cannot comment on that further.
But do you accept, Ms. Prince, that when you say it is denied that law had abused the empire, that comes across as something that it's misleading. If all I did was merely to read your response there, I would be misled to believing that Mr. Prinsloo has authority or has knowledge of whether or not an abuse of the nature that you have now read to you occurred or not. I know, English is not my language, it's not your mother tongue, it's not my mother tongue. But I can tell you now, your lawyer will tell you that when you say it is denied that Mr. Johanneslo, it is you speaking. And you say, no, that's not so deng. It never happened.
Look, I don't interpret it the way you do, Mr. Chair. I think when I said it's denied, I was speaking on behalf of Mr. Lowe.
No, it's not an interpretation. It's just reading a sentence as you put. You are responding here. He says, no, it is denied. He never did something like that. That's it is denied that Mr. Johanneslo had abused an empire. Anyway, I would like you to reflect on that because, one could get a sense out of the way it is put there, that you are prepared to dismiss what was complained about by the person who testified that they were abused, and that you,
Mr. Chair,
from your own law. Come again?
I hope you can. I just want to clarify, you broke up there a bit. You want me to reflect on that part and come back to you guys in terms of that, or what is it that you're asking of me?
Well, you are at liberty at any stage before we close this. Before we finalize the writing of the report, you are at liberty to make communication to the Ombudsman.
We will take that under advisement.
Yes. Now, one other further question from me, or that calls for you in NWC. You remember we had said we don't see where NW16 is, and I have now seen it. And it's Papi Mbese. Now, again, this is something that I would like you to give us detail of this entire incident from beginning to end. Let me summarize what I see in NW16. Papi Mbese, I don't know whether it's a WhatsApp or a message, but he communicates with you and he apologizes unconditionally for all the things that he had said about you. He says he was not thinking straight, he was under pressure, very angry, and he directed his anger at you. He had listened to wrong advice, and he was just taking wrong orders. And when you ask him what, wrong orders from whom? And he says it's from people that he vowed he will never entertain again And you ended the conversation, unfortunately, by saying that you are rushing to Johannesburg and that you would talk later to him, and there it ends. Can you give me some detail of this entire incident from beginning to end? What was going on here?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know where this WhatsApp came from. It's just I was on the road to the Lanseria airport to have a meeting there with a stakeholder, and suddenly this WhatsApp came through. I stopped. I was about 10 minutes early. I stopped, started reading it, and that was the trend of that's all I can tell you. I bear no ill feeling towards Mr. Mbesi. I mean, this apology is good to me. Unfortunately, it happened after his admissions or presentations at the SJN. So,
what was he referring to? What did you understand him to be referring to? Because he seems remorseful and whatever. What was he apologizing about? What did he say? I mean, did you get to know what he had said to me at the SJN hearings in relation to which he was now apologizing? I mean, I find that very weird. But I'm not,
Look, I think this is a personal conversation, and in terms of what he said about Northwest Cricket, I think he should explain that. I think I was just aggrieved that he pulled my son personally, I was aggrieved that he pulled my son into the conversation. And that's what I said to him. Listen, how do you explain that? You pulled my son into it. But then he admitted that he doesn't even know him and so forth. So, and saying that he was getting orders. So when he said he doesn't want to, basically he said he doesn't want to identify the people orders, I'm not going to put pressure on him to identify who gave him the orders and who was malicious or not malicious to that effect. So I was so happy to move on.
But what are you conveying to me? Because you are putting this as an annexure by way of a response to an allegation which you felt needed you to respond to. That is the opportunity that we have given. I mean, this week and next week is dedicated to people who were mentioned by people to their detriment. Now, you put this here, and it doesn't read well because it portrays a person who came before me and said all those things that called upon you to respond. And then he says, I apologize unreservedly. I was not thinking straight. I've got to evaluate his evidence. And I think you were putting this thing here. I just want you to tell me what you understood by what Papi was saying to you. What was he conveying to you? Because I have to take into account, especially when you have put it as an annexure to your responses to some of the allegations that had been made. Must I regard what he says here as an absolute retraction of anything and everything that he testified about when he came earlier? That is what I want you to assist me with. When
Mr.
you
Chairman,
annex it as annexure.
I'm not a lawyer by profession, so I just thought it would be appropriate to show your committee that I think at the very least some of his testimony should be discredited because of this WhatsApp comments came through to me. But that is obviously at your discretion. I mean, that is purely my understanding.
Yes, no, it's not it's not a legal inquiry. It's actually a factual inquiry, and a factual inquiry which seeks to say, Mr. Principal, please let me understand the factual metrics within which this thing was happening. You have a conversation with a person who says, I am so sorry. I was not thinking straight. I apologize unconditionally for all the things I had said about you. What are the facts? I want the facts. I don't want the law. It's a factual inquiry. What were you conversing about? What did he say to you? when you pursued him about why he says he was not thinking straight. You even say you involved my family. Give me all the facts that are going to be relevant for me to actually appreciate whether or not it's something I must take into account.
I believe my intention was that his apology, to explain his apology, why now. I think from my side, I just wanted to hear why he did it. But he did explain it to me. He said he was under instructions, whatever the case may be. The rest of his WhatsApp is self-explanatory. And then I just left it at that. I think that maybe you should be engaging with himself on this.
You didn't leave it just like that, Mr. Prinsloo. You brought it to me because you want me to make a conclusion about the character or about the nature of the evidence that he has given to me, insofar as it may have called upon you to respond to the allegations he may have made in the earlier evidence that he gave. You didn't just drop it. I mean, when I said I don't have annexure NWC 16, you say you insisted and we went and got it. Now I see what is in there. And I see why you insisted that I should have it. I'm not quarreling with you. I'm simply saying, give me all the facts. What is it that you are wanting to draw my attention to? What happened? What was happening here?
Mr. Prinsloo, if you can just maybe refer the chair to your supplementary submission. Maybe you can just, so you can provide him the context, because I know in your supplementary submission, which is behind Annexure 16, he does provide the factual context. So maybe you can start on paragraph 3 and take us through
Paragraph 3 of my supplementary.
Yes, the supplementary that goes with Annexure 16.
Okay.
It's behind Annexure 16.
Okay, I will do that. Northwest Cricket filed a formal written reply to the allegations made against Northwest Cricket and myself during the SJN hearings on the 27th of August 2021. Subsequent to filing Northwest Cricket's reply on the 27th of August, certain events transpired, in particular to the testimony on day 19 of the SJ hearing recorded on page 2785 to 289 of the transcripts. As will become evident, the reason for Northwest Cricket having to supplement its written reply is based on that an event transpired on Thursday, the 2nd of September 21. Mr. Bessie gave oral testimony at the SJ hearing at paragraph 14 and 15 of Northwest Cricket reply. The nature of Mr. Bessie and Mr. Majavi's testimony is addressed in general and submitted to largely by a repeat of the submission by Dr. Kagisang. Throughout Northwest Cricket reply, the testimony of Mr. Bessie is addressed chronologically. The further testimony by Mr. Bessie on pages 2828 to 2846 are addressed at paragraph 151 to 171 of Northwest Cricket reply. At paragraph 157, it deals with allegations against my son and are in general of personal nature. My surprise on the 2nd of September at approximately 10 minutes past 1, Mr. Mbesi made contact with me over WhatsApp. Prior to Mr. Mbesi's message, I had no dealings with him for approximately 18 months. The content of the communication is self-explanatory. The importance thereof in context of the allegations made against Northwest Cricket and myself during SJN hearings are hereby placed before the Ombudsman to duly consider and insist in the outcome of the proceedings. The full record of the discussion between myself and Bessie are annexed here to and marked as NWC 16.
Exactly. This is exactly, in this annexure, you say it yourself. You are not just putting it there. You want me to consider it in the context of his testimony. That's what you say in paragraph 8 on page 2 of your supplementary. The context of the communication is self-explanatory. The importance thereof in the context of the allegations made against Northwest Cricket and myself during the SNJ hearings are hereby placed before the Transformation Ombudsman to duly consider and assist the outcome of the proceedings, the full record of the discussion. And what does NW 16 say? NWC 16 say? It
think it
doesn't
goes,
tell, it doesn't
this
tell
thing-
me why this man, as I say, I went at great length to summarize what he says there. And I'll repeat. He apologizes unconditionally to you for all the things he had said about you. He was not thinking straight. He was under pressure, very angry, and directed his anger at you. He listened to wrong advice. He was just taking wrong orders from people that he vowed he will never entertain again. You should end, and then you end the conversation by saying, hey, listen, I've got to run to Johannesburg, and that I will talk to you later. Now, I want you to tell me what this entire incident was all about from beginning to end. Did you go back to this guy and say, hey man, listen, I was in a hurry to get to Josie, and I wanted you to give me the details. What is it that you are apologizing about? What is it that you said to Ntsebeza at SJN which was wrong and for which you regret? Did you have that conversation? Or did you
I
not?
didn't have, after this incident, a conversation with Mr. Mbesi until late last week. Obviously, he contacted me when he received this affidavit, which obviously you guys sent to him. So I did have coffee with him,
Yes.
but we didn't explain. He didn't. I didn't ask him, and he didn't explain. I just
No,
reached out to
Mr.
him.
Prinsloo, no,
I told him,
no,
look, Papi, what happened. It's in the past, and we must look forward. And I even assisted him to get to Pretoria to act as a pitch vision operator during a tournament there in Pretoria. So that's the long and the short, Mr. Terry.
So did he say he was lying to me when he said all those things about you and your family and your son and what have you? What exactly did he say to you in that conversation?
I think there is question marks in terms of the credibility of his evidence.
Well, let me make the judgment as to whether there are question marks. And I'll only be able to make that judgment if I know what he said to you. What did he say?
What exactly did he say?
Yeah. Julle twee gesels, what is it that you talk about?
I just conveyed our conversation with you, sir.
No.
Mr. Prinsloo, I must also just interject. So I'm sure you forwarded to your attorneys Mr. Papimbese's original submission, and Chair, you do have the email there. So in that email, towards the bottom, I know Mr. Papimbese does mention issues of victimization within the province. So, for example, he says black players, coaches, and administrators are still disadvantaged, even after 27 years of democracy. There are guys that work for NWC that are afraid to speak their minds because they might lose their job. Did you find the paragraph, Chair?
Yes. Oh, he says a lot of things about it.
What email are you referring to? I have no knowledge of that email.
You don't have... His original submission, was that not forwarded to the office?
I'm not too sure what you're talking about now.
Okay. No, we will send it to you, but basically his transcript that you have in your possession expands on what he had stated in his email. So this was his original submission before he came to the hearings.
In July.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't believe I have that email. I have his submission I received from you guys, but we'll have to go back to it and check it. I'm not too sure what you're referring to.
No problem. Well, I'll just read it out to you again so you can just hear that, because I'm also quite concerned. So in let me just see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about 6 paragraphs from the bottom. He says black
what
players.
page?
I'm sorry, this is from the email that I'm reading from his original submission. I will forward it to.
I haven't got.
No problem. I'll forward it to Mr. Van Deventer.
Yes, please.
Right. So he just states that black players, coaches, and administrators are still disadvantaged, even 27 years of democracy. Even after 27 years of democracy, there are guys who work for NWC that are afraid to speak their minds because they might lose their job. I know I will definitely be a target of such in future with NWC. So this is what he says before he came to the hearing. So now, in light of this annexure that you provide to us where he's apologizing to you, my concern is whether Mr. Papimbese was victimized, or was his job threatened, or is he not getting any jobs anymore from the union, and hence the apology. I mean, we would have to find out from him, but that's why the chair is asking, what is the context of this annexure, of his apology? Did he mention anything to you on whether him coming to the hearings has affected him?
Obviously, what he mentioned to me is that he's struggling financially, and that he needs an employment, and he's out of employment currently. That's what he discussed with me when we had coffee late last week, as I mentioned. Yeah. But in the context of at North East Cricket, I'm not too I don't know, have any knowledge of that in terms of that email that he just sent. So
I think let me do this to be fair to everybody. Advocate Ngele is going to send you this email, which you don't have. And then you can make your comments
very well
to all the, and then I still want you to tell me what your conversation was about, how it came across, why it came, and you are now contextualizing it in some ways. Because you say he also wanted a job. He has hit at times.
Are you talking about the conversation when we had coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that is the conversation. Forgive me if I am off the mark. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to me that is the conversation that led you to NW16. To say
no, that the conversation happened way after we rendered that NWC 16.
Yes,
that was on the 9th of September, if I recall correctly, and this coffee appointment we had was only late last week, sir. So.
Oh yeah, okay, but anyway, just tell me what he said. What were the facts? You know that
basically. Obviously, when he received this correspondence of this supplementary affidavit, he was a bit upset with me. And so I said, let's have coffee and clarify it. Then he didn't go into the details to which he apologized for, to be quite honest. Then I said, look, Papi, we can't take back what we did in the past. I mean, you said what you said. I made that supplementary submission. It is what it is. I unfortunately cannot extract it, but I told him that look, I bear no ill feeling against you. I mean, you apologized to me in terms of my son. My son has actually accepted your apology without even knowing him, and we've moved on from that, you know. So then the conversation in terms of he's struggling with employment, and there's an opportunity that he has to score pitch vision and to set up the cameras. I think the visual effects or the streaming apparatus for pitch vision at the tournament in Victoria, which I then assisted to get to that tournament in my personal capacity.
Now, Mr. Principal, please don't get me wrong. I mean, if there's anyone who wants everybody who was involved in this project to move on, I mean, we need to move on with our lives. So I have I've nothing against you for wanting us to say, okay, we now have looked into the past, in the present, and we don't want to go into the future. But you see, I think the downside of people being very eager to move on and forget about the past is the fact that they do not address those issues fully, which cause them to be in a conflict situation in the first place. When a man comes to you and he says, I had my mind wrong, and yet he had come here under oath and told me all manner of things about how he was mistreated. I can only promote reconciliation, forgiveness, and forgetting about what happened, moving on with our lives, when I actually know all the facts that are relevant to what must inform my decision. So when I get now something that after somebody on under oath had come here and said all manner of things about you and about your son and your family and what have you, and then I get to hear that he sends a WhatsApp and says, I was not thinking straight. He has not written anything to me. And yet I must now come with a finding. You'll laugh me off and you'll say, no, what's the matter with this Ntsebeza? You know? I even indicated to him that the person on whose testimony now he seeks to rely upon actually came to me and said, I'm sorry. So please bear with me. Understand that I want to come to a conclusion that is not only factually correct, but also promotive of the terms of reference which were behind the formation of this SJN project.
I'm not too sure what you want of me, but let me try. I think in terms of to clarify what you think, I think the first steps in terms of reconciliation between myself and Papi for now is that we had that coffee together. I mean, he, even after the tournament, when he reached his home, he sent me a message saying, thank you for assisting me to get there. I think it's a first path going forward. In terms of me saying the past is the past, I mean specifically the fact that he said all these things under oath in front of you guys, and I'm happy to move forward from that. I mean, in terms of, and I'm talking about the stuff he said about me personally. In terms of Northwest cricket, and that I think we're ready. The first steps is taken to be of a reconciliation between definitely myself and Papi. In terms of Northwest cricket, the future, it will be hard for me to comment now, but obviously I'm not close to trying to rectify the past.
Well, on that note, Mr. Prinsloo, I think we should adjourn these proceedings. You will be sent the email from Papi of the 27th of July. And but let me thank you for having taken the time. I mean, when I look at your affidavit, it's quite a lengthy affidavit. You took time not only to think about what must go into that affidavit, but also to collect all the annexures so that when one reads your affidavit and the annexures, one comes to a view, a balanced view of what is sought to be conveyed. And that would not have taken you an hour or two. It must have taken you quite a lot of time in consultations with your legal advisors, in also just remembering the events, in which you participated as a significant person in cricket. We all want the same thing. I think everyone in South Africa wants cricket to be a sporting code which everybody must be proud of, whether they are selectors, whether they are referees, whether they are managers, whether they are players, whether they are people who do the grounds. People must be happy to be associated with cricket in 2021. And especially, and I say this all the time, when one thinks about it, it was 30 years ago that all these cricketing bodies, South African Cricket Association, this, that, one for colors, one for Indians, one for Africans, one for white people, they decided, now we want to be together. And 30 years down the line, Cricket South Africa says, oh yeah, just let us make sure that in this period, after committing to union as cricket in 1991, is there a place where racial discrimination, gender discrimination took a place? Or is there a place where it impacted on the sporting code? And if so, in what ways? And if not so, then we are happy that we should be going on the same trajectory that we are on. So this inquiry is not a witch hunt. I would hope it is not a witch hunt to anybody. It is just intended to make an inquiry as to whether those who claim they were victimized on account of their race and on account of their gender were justified or not. And if they are justified, then we will have to say so. If they are not justified, then we will have to say so. If there's room to improve, we'll just collectively have to see in what ways we can make the future better. And it is when people like you take their time, come to these, formalized, hearings, because you could just have taken an attitude that says, look, I don't have time for that nonsense, and that would be it. But the fact that you committed yourself and committed time to come and participate and make your points is something that we in the Office of the Transformation Ombudsman are very, very thankful for. And because we couldn't have done it with your input. Thank you very much then for attending.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Stay well.
You too. We are adjourning. Advocate Nel, for how long are we adjourning? Until 2 o'clock. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, that's 1.5 hours. Okay. Yes. I know.